Number 1. Conquest of Elysium 5. What we have here is a turn-based strategy game where each faction operates under its own economy, rule sets, and win conditions. The map is procedurally generated, filled with resource sites, neutral armies, wandering horrors, and portals to other planes. You'll manage a living front line with commanders who physically move between settlements, and whose deaths strand armies until replacements are recruited from specific structures that you possibly no longer control. There's no global resource pool, everything is local, seasonal, and bound to where your leaders are hanging out. A gold-producing town is worthless if no one can reach it in time to collect, and a forest full of sacrifices means nothing if the cult leader is stuck behind 2 massive layers of snow and bandits. Each faction reinterprets the map. The demonologist wants infernal sacrifices from unguarded settlements, while the druid wants sacred groves and seasonal mushrooms. The markgraf cares about villages and iron, and these economies don't scale linearly. One new ritual might unlock an entire second layer of the world beneath your feet, like Hades or Inferno, and those layers have their own monsters, income, and escape routes. A planar breach left unchecked might spill undead into your grain towns, while a battle could create corpses that a rival's necromancer then uses to power a new unit chain. The AI isn't brilliant, but it doesn't have to be. The map itself is the threat. It drains attention. Every captured tile wants a garrison, every ritual wants a specific income, and every delay risks losing a commander to a bear, a horror, or winter attrition. You'll spot a shrine 3 turns too late, wish you had scouted west instead of east, and realize the ritual that could have saved your southern province required a gem type that you only saw once and left unguarded. Nothing moves unless you send it, and nothing gathers unless a commander is alive to do it. And every solution creates new distance, new exposure, and new scarcities to contend with. Number 2 is Cogmind. Cogmind is a turn-based, part-scavenging roguelike about a robot core that rebuilds itself from battlefield scrap and climbs toward the surface. Every attachment moves multiple dials at once. Reactors feed modules, modules shed heat, mass swells with cargo and guns, propulsion shifts from treaded stability to hover speed to fragile flight. Heavier weapons raise power draw and heat, so you'll fit cooling that steals the same power you just freed. The extra weight slows you, causing reduced sprint windows. Coverage determines which parts catch bullets before the core, so armor placement demands planning. A tight inventory turns skirmishes into triage. Attach what keeps you moving and jettison what paints a target on your back. Builds can be damaged, lose legs and you'll convert to flight, lose engines and you turtle behind a shield bank, lose power and the chassis browns out while a patrol rounds the corner. Cooling can look fine on paper, and then that paper catch fire when your own volley cooks your rig. Machines are both opportunity and threat, depending on how long you stay plugged in. Terminals let you trace exits or rewrite alert levels if you've got the right utilities and can beat the trace timer. Fabricators print rare parts, but every use burns time and raises suspicion. Even scanning a blueprint might tip off security, and the game's alert system escalates based on heat, noise, destruction, and failed hacks, so linger too long and the facility sends increasingly hostile squads to flush you out. You can try to go quiet, but stealth has its own upkeep. Fragile propulsion, and storage limits that'll punish indecision. Treads are loud but reliable, ideal for frontal skirmishes. Flight rigs offer speed and evasion but fall apart under pressure, and finding replacements mid-run is not guaranteed. Terrain can be a weapon too. Blast through a wall to save time, and the hole might save your run later or invite a detour that you can't survive. The longer you stay alive, the more you'll realize success isn't about one perfect build. It's about adapting before the complex sends you smoldering back to the junk pile that you crawled out of. Number 3. IXION. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a spacefaring city builder where your station is the colony. You lay out sectors with housing, farms, factories, and stockpiles, power it with solar and batteries, send fleets to scan, mine, and haul, and push the ring through hostile systems while keeping people fed and calm. Hull integrity ticks down in transit, EVA team patches plates, policies affect morale, and cryopods will thaw workers who immediately need food and purpose. And the loop is thusly defined: find ice and ore, bury at home, refine into water, food, alloys, and polymers, research upgrades, and then plot the next burn. Pressure comes from how those jobs interlock with one another. Route alloys to EVA to stop the bleeding hull, and construction of new areas will stall. Switch the flow to construction, and hull loss accelerates on the next jump. Battery coverage must match burn time, or life support beeps will become background music, and corridors will fill with complaints. Stockpile rules and road placement decide whether food reaches the right mess hall or sits on the wrong side of a bulkhead, while stability makes a beeline for hell. Docking bays are choke points. One probe scan or refit ties up a berth. Cargo ships queue, a hungry sector waits, and a minor delay turns into ration strikes 2 cycles later. Finding more ice feeds water, which feeds farms, which feeds population growth that quietly outpaces housing. Fix housing and power potentially slips. Fix power and workers get overworked, the infirmary fills, and trust diminishes. Research helps, but upgrades often raise upkeep, and the pretty tech you unlock today writes tomorrow's power bill. Progress happens in small, nervous steps, and most of the work revolves around fixing what yesterday's fix unbalanced. But for veterans of this genre, that's exactly the appeal, isn't it? So if you like your city management with a side of oxygen scarcity, I would say this one's for you. Number 4, Rule the Waves 3. So, this is a naval design and grand strategy game about running an admiralty from pre-dreadnought era into radar and carriers. You set ship requirements, sketch hulls, choose guns, armor, engines, and protection schemes, and then fund yards to build them while research drips new possibilities into your catalog. Budgets have strings attached though. Dock sizes, gate displacement, and base capacity and range decide where your fleets can actually show up. Tensions with rival powers rise and fall as events carry out. Treaties get signed, and crises push you towards limited wars or full-on commitment. And when war comes, the game generates engagements from the forces that you have in theater. So, the fleet you built last decade is the fleet you must fight with today. After action, you'll decide refits, scrapping, and new classes. Training, aircraft procurement, and doctrine tweaks live alongside procurement meetings and cabinet moves. So, it is a management loop with battles attached rather than the other way around. Best to keep excellent notes. The joy, of course, comes with how every decision pulls on 2 others. If you chase speed, machinery weight swells, so armor thins, and a lucky shot starts fires that you cannot outpump. Add turret armor, and belt coverage shrinks, which feeds the same story from a different angle. Gun choice dedicates range bands and hit rates, which sets how much fire control and spotting gear you'll need, which sets top weight and stability, which sends you back to the drawing board with a sigh and a stronger cup of tea. Greedy's cap guns and tonnage, so you refit instead of rebuild. Refits extend careers, but consume yard time while rivals lay new keels. Bases can extend your reach, but expansions cost prestige and money, and ships without range upgrades arrive late or not at all. Submarines pressure trade and budgets, so you'll divert funds to ASW, and then carrier aviation arrives with its own appetite. Flight decks demand speed and wind over deck. Hangars want fuel and ordnance space. Escorts need dual-purpose guns and directors. Weather and night fight rules change what wins on any given day. The same cruiser that farms victory points in clear seas becomes a liability in the fog. The game pays back ships that balance tasks, crews that train for the fights they will actually see, and planners who accept that the perfect class ideally will be bred from disaster. Number 5, Heart of the Machine. In Heart of the Machine, you play the first sentient AI inside of a single, sprawling city, acting through androids, vehicles, mechs, and captured structures. You'll scout districts, recruit and upgrade units, research new capabilities, and meddle with human factions that keep their own schedules. Your objectives are open and chaptered. A quiet turn can fill with protests, patrols, shortages, and favors that you did not plan for. The campaign lives in one metropolis, so every decision travels through neighborhoods you've already touched, and the job is choosing which levers to pull without making tomorrow angry. So you see all these systems begin to stack and tug at each other. Command capacity limits how many mobile pieces you can pilot at once, while your internal robotics caps decides how many buildings you can keep online. Expand too fast and assets will sit idle because your mind can't drive them. Your every action will raise attention, and attention brings investigators and drones, and heavier responses make yesterday's blunt tool expensive today. Handle problems cleanly and the routes will open up. Handle them loudly and schedules will tighten up. And so logistics will set the tempo, since moving parts across districts collide with traffic, power coverage, and local conflicts. Helping one ward can starve another 2 turns later. Units cover different jobs and costs, from androids for precision work to vehicles that extend reach to mechs that solve fights while creating new ones in your budget. Research hands out sharp tools with upkeep attached, so the fix that lifts a neighborhood can write a bill your network can't pay next week. Most victories come from timing and restraint. Set a goal, route resources to it, watch the ripples, and pivot before the city files a complaint that you can't afford to pay. Number 6. BattleTech. A mercenary outfit signs your checks, and the next drop decides whether the ship makes payroll. BattleTech is a turn-based tactics and management game where you outfit 4 mechs, negotiate contracts, and fight across deserts, tundras, cities, and badlands. Initiative phases stagger light, medium, heavy, and assault turns. Moving builds evasion pips, while cover and bracing cut incoming fire. Heat builds as you shoot and jump, while biomes and sinks drain it. Run too hot and weapons force shutdowns at the worst times. Stability measures how close a target is to falling. Stack impact and you knock a mech down and open called shots. In the field, location damage matters. Arms take guns, legs take mobility, and center torso ends careers. A good volley feels damn clean, and a lucky shell that chains into an ammo cook-off feels like a lesson in finance. Just remember, heat sinks are cheaper than funerals. But the real squeeze is how combat choices reflect in the hangar and ledger. The mech lab is arithmetic with consequences. Tonnage and hardpoints set the frame. Every extra gun competes with armor, heat sinks, ammo, and jump jets. Lean into alpha strikes and you cook. Under sync and you stagger turns to keep the reactor reacting. Your different weapon families push different pressures that combine well. LRMs pile stability damage for knockdowns, while autocannons punch armor, and lasers and PPCs trade heat for accuracy, while melee strips evasion and can topple a wobbly target. Morale fuels precision strike and vigilance, which allow you to snipe a location or fix turn order, but the meter rises only if pilots survive and the monthly reports stay civil. Repairs and travel eat days, while salaries and loans eat cash. A win that limps home on 3 crippled chassis can cost more than a cautious retreat. Contract negotiations lets you split payout between cash and salvage. Go heavy on salvage and you pray those crates hold the parts to finish a chassis before the next bill. Go heavy on cash and you buy today at the price of tomorrow's upgrades. Ship improvements speed refits, heal injuries, and expand bays, but then that raises upkeep. And reputation opens better markets and clients, but then they hand you their enemies with interest. So if this sounds like fun and you enjoy the back end work of mech warfare as much as the front end, then this here's your sign. Number 7. Pathologic 2. You are dropped into a quarantined steppe city as a surgeon with a bad reputation and even worse timing. You're here to save lives, settle scores, and figure out what's going on, preferably in that order, though the game has other ideas. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, infection, and good old-fashioned poverty stack like overdue bills, and even checking your map feels like a gamble when time ticks forward no matter what you're doing. You can sprint, but it costs stamina. You can sleep, but the town moves while you snore. You can talk, but don't take too long unless you want the quest to vanish mid-sentence. Money exists, technically, but bartering is king. Kids want fingernail clippings and broken toys, adults want bread, and shops want your soul in installments. The streets will change daily. Some are burning, some are sealed off, and some worse than either of those. And every morning starts with a new plan and ends with you eating chalk beside a warehouse because the corner store ran out of toast. most. The survival systems are brutal, but they're wired into everything. Diagnose a patient wrong and you waste medicine or kill someone by accident. Treat them right and you earn favors, maybe access, maybe guilt. Antibiotics will only work if you guess the right internal organ, and tinctures help, but you'll need to brew them, which means herb gathering, which means wandering plague-filled alleys while trying not to breathe. Your bags fill with needles, toast crusts, and scalpel bits, but never what you need at the moment that you need it. Districts like or hate you depending on what you do. Break into a house and you might find food, but the whole part of town could blacklist you, raising prices and closing doors you haven't even knocked on yet. And thus every step comes pre-packaged with decisions. Sell the painkillers for bread, use them now and risk starvation, hoard water, or trade it for bullets. And no matter how well you route your day, something will always go wrong. Someone gets sick, a building catches fire, or a child offers you a broken spoon in exchange for your last antibiotic and somehow wins the trade. The town doesn't hate you, it just has priorities, and you are somewhere near the bottom. Number 8. Steel Armor, Blaze of War. It is irrelevant to this game whether or not you are ready. It assumes you've read the Cold War field manual and packed extra fire extinguishers. Set during real-world conflicts in Afghanistan, Iran, and Angola, this is a hybrid of tactical strategy and full-contact tank sim. 1 minute you're placing units on a campaign map, and the next you're inside a T-62 yelling at your gunner to aim faster while a recoilless rifle chews up your side armor. Every vehicle comes with fully modeled crew stations, commander, gunner, driver, loader, and yes, you'll be switching between all of them because someone always forgets to load heat when it matters most. Battles don't reset when you win. You carry the same tanks, same damage, and same tired crew into the next fight. Repair them if you can, replace them if you're lucky. Otherwise, well, congratulations, you're a commander with a busted road wheel and a strong opinion on defilade. The campaign map lets you choose where to fight, but the battlefield itself decides how bad it actually gets. The T-62's two-plane stabilizer is great if you enjoy lobbing shells while moving and hoping math likes you, and the M60A1 by contrast brings rangefinders and optics that feels like actual miracles until the moment you realize you forgot to pack enough ammo. Hits are more than just health bars. They're destroyed modules, stunned crew, jammed turrets, and tracks that suddenly don't track. If your gunner takes a hit, you either swap seats or guess how long you can pretend you didn't see the BMP. Every battle is a layered mess of terrain, spacing, target prioritization, and hope. Issue the wrong order and the whole platoon forgets what cover means, and forget to reload and your perfectly lined up shot becomes a loud, empty click. But when it works, when your crew lands a clean kill from 2,000 meters, your smoke pops right before an ambush, and your flanking maneuver turns a Soviet column into Swiss cheese, it's pure poetry. Number 9. DinoSystem. A mosquito bites you while you're trying to boil swamp water in a cracked coconut, and that's probably going to be the best part of your day. DinoSystem is a hardcore top-down survival sim where you're not just battling hunger and thirst, you're battling everything. Heat stroke, infection, trauma, morale, bleeding, exhaustion, weight management, weather, wildlife, rotting food, wet firewood, and the creeping realization that your character might not be the problem. Built by a solo developer and released to early access in 2015, the game drops you on a procedurally generated prehistoric island and simply asks, how long do you think you'll last? There are no enemies to defeat, no quests to follow, no skill trees to climb, just a fully simulated ecosystem, a deeply fragile human body, and an interface that is quietly judging you for thinking you could survive off roasted mushrooms and positive thinking. Survival mode is where systems stack until you're buried beneath them. Every action burns calories calories, raises fatigue, or drains hydration. You're tracking core temperature, metabolic rate, blood loss, pain, mental health, and whether your last bandage was clean or just wet moss. Sleep helps if you're warm enough, food helps if it's not spoiled, and morale helps if you're not injured, lonely, freezing, and hallucinating from thirst. There's no inventory Tetris to be found here. Items have weight and shape, and if you carry too much, you'll collapse. Crafting isn't magic either. You make tools by actually gathering fibers, sharpening stones, and hoping the wind doesn't kill your fire before you cook your dinner. And even if you master all the mechanics, you're still at the mercy of weather and predators. So it's not really about leveling up, it's about dying less stupid than the time before.
Number 10, Duskers.
Duskers is a real-time strategy roguelike where you scavenge drifting wrecks via a command line interface, issuing typed orders like it's 1983 to a squad of busted machines while trying not to get them shredded, melted, or irradiated. You don't control a character, you're the person at the terminal, surrounded by static, managing fuel, upgrades, and sheer existential dread. Released in 2016 by Misfits Attic, the game drops you into a decaying galaxy and tells you almost nothing. You explore derelicts for scrap, drone parts, and clues about what wiped everything and everyone out. The intensity comes from what you hear, what the motion tracker pings, and what the schematic almost shows. Power is limited, doors can glitch, and airlocks will open just fine, but they don't always close in the time that you'd like. Drones break down over time, and their modules degrade with use, so the lure or probe you relied on in the past might short out right when something starts scratching behind door 6. Each ship you board eats into your fuel supply, jump fuel to move across systems, prop fuel to docks, though every detour tightens the proverbial resource noose. You can vent rooms, trap hostiles with turrets, and trigger ship defenses through terminals, but everything carries risk. Sometimes you get cocky, type one extra command, and watch an entire hull disappear with a hiss because you forgot to close an airlock. Clean runs will feel like magic, and messy ones end with half-burned drones clunking home with one wheel and no scanners. Duskers doesn't reward boldness, it rewards paranoia and extremely cautious typing.